If you scroll past this or you click off the video, you may be a part of why it's happening. Let's be brave enough and courageous enough to share this with other people and become a more conscious civilization for the next generation. Why are human beings so cruel? I'm going to talk about that, but first, if you do scroll past this video or click off, you may be part of the reason why it's like it is. I do have got my cell phone today, an article I was reading, which kind of shows how unconscious and how cruel we can be as humans without some kind of conscious awareness or compassion. It says here, "Welcome to the hell house." The man wrote a note and left it there after he did what he did. Man punched pregnant woman in the stomach, kicking and kneeing her until she passed out after locking her inside of an RV. I won't say the names or anything like that. It's already widely broadcast. But ultimately, the reason why things like this is still happening amongst ourselves is ultimately because there's no awareness, there's no compassion of mental commentary, meaning that without that awareness of the commentary, you cannot step out of that commentary. You become the commentary. So you become your mind, ultimately, which means that whatever your mind says goes. You're going to do it because you haven't realized that you are not your mind. And upon realizing that, peace comes, compassion comes. You change the way you think. You change the way you do things. You no longer are interested in anything negative, so to speak. You see it, you read about it, but it doesn't rile you up. I remember before the shift in consciousness for myself, when I would see maybe high school, I would see a fight, and then it would rise up in me wanting to do something and create chaos. It was crazy. You may have experienced that. When you see something negative, kind of comes into you. But ultimately, without the necessary awareness, this could continue. There's other articles here. I don't care to really read more. That's enough. But most people who scroll on these things don't really want to hear anything that has to do with truth. They scroll past it very quickly. But only if we become aware of it is when we can change it. Aware of it deeply. I mean, not just aware that it's happening, but aware of how it's happening and how it can transpire into our world, if you will. So, as I always say, take a moment to step out of thinking, even if it's not negative. It could be positive thinking, whatever it is. But know that the thinking isn't as important as your primary sense of self, which is the consciousness that you are, which stepping out of thinking allows you to be centered, rooted in presence, and not seeking some kind of mental, commentary that helps you feel alive. You're not really alive when you're accessing thoughts from the past. You're alive really deeply when you're not thinking and you've stepped out of thinking. That's when you can sense the aliveness of who you are. Otherwise, things like this, if we don't, as a human society, our civilization, don't become more aware of our thought process, these type of things will continue, will cause havoc on the planet like we're doing, will cause havoc and chaos to other people without knowing that the essence of who you are, which is consciousness, is the essence of that other person. So that ultimately means that that's you that you're kicking and punching, and the unborn baby is you. So just upon realizing that for yourself, it's less likely that you do something like that. It's less likely that you cause war. It's less likely that you bomb other people because you know the truth of who you are. Knowing the truth, or a certain kind of truth, if you will, because there is no ultimate truth, there is only awareness and compassion in which you can use to cultivate a truer way of living. But without us being aware of this is why I wanted to stop and talk about it. It continues, and the acceleration of awakening becomes slower. It's happening. As you can see here, we're talking about it, so this is a part of us awakening together. But without it being mainstream, it takes very long for compassionate awareness, as I call it, to come in, where you're compassionately aware of your thought process, where you're compassionately aware of your emotional fluctuations, when you're compassionately aware of yourself as the other. It takes a little practice, and that's what we mostly talk about here, but it is possible to change the outcome of our human civilization with just a little bit of awareness. Not even much, not even having to go and pay someone, church or whatever it may be, or go sit somewhere and meditate. It doesn't take that. It only takes us, one by one, to see the unconsciousness, the craziness of most humans' minds still, and to want to change it by stopping sometime and listening to something like this. It brings in a whole different dimension of knowing. It's very important, because if we don't, the world as we know it will be doomed ultimately. At least the human beings, because the human beings are causing all the craziness. The planet is just here for us to experience. But if we miss the fact that we're conscious beings having a conscious experience, then we've kind of failed as human beings, no matter what success you have. So let's be brave enough and courageous enough to share this with other people and become a more conscious civilization for the next generation. Thank you for joining me.